all over the walls, the floor, the ceiling,
You
and
can
it
stop
stunk
at
so bad.
5 or 6 stores or just one.
Welcome to Goof Radio. My name is Michael Primz, and today we will be talking about the newest Deftones album called Ohms. Ohms is the 9th album released by Sacramento-based alt-metal band Deftones, one of my favorite bands of all time. I first got super into Deftones at the end of grade 9 when Diamond Eyes came out. I was already super into the alt-metal bands like Tool and System of a Down, so it was kind of a natural progression for me to get into Deftones. I heard that album and I was hooked. That next summer was pretty much my own summer because all I listened to was Deftones. I got super into White Pony, Around the Fur, Adrenaline, the self-titled, even Saturday Night Wrist, even though that album kind of has its issues and its fillers. That next year, I remember walking through the high school halls on the first day of school with Back to School by Deftones from the Adrenaline album playing. And I felt like so superior from the rest of my grade that were into like Lil Wayne and LMFAO. I was kind of a metal elitist that way, but I thought Deftones were the coolest band ever. Still kind of do. They have a unique sound that I can't compare to anything else in metal. It's this ferocious, all-encompassing, spacey guitars and drums. Meet Chino Moreno's vocals that go from the soft-spoken and sung dream pop Cocteau Twins slow dive style kind of passages to screaming bloody murder like he's being attacked by a slasher in a horror movie. I've seen the band live probably 6 times, 5 times in Toronto and 1 time in Las Vegas, and they're some of the best concerts I've been to. I remember the first time I saw them live was at Sound Academy in Toronto. It's now called Rebel. It's more of a club atmosphere, even though they do have concerts there from time to time. And I remember just how loud they were. I was like in the first row, and it was so friggin' loud that I had to move to the back. I remember. And then I remember that Dillinger Escape Plan opened for them and Greg Puciato jumped on my fucking head. I remember his sweaty, muscular chest hitting my head. I must have had pimples for a week after that, honestly. Deftones was very much my high school band, and I memorialized that fact at the end of high school when I got a tattoo of White Pony on my chest. Here's an image of my chest in 2013 at 18 years old, so I could spare you the horror of me lifting my shirt at 25. From the end of grade 9, I waited until November of grade 12 for Deftones' next album, Koi no Yoken, and I just wasn't into it. To me, it sounded like this diluted, overproduced wall of sound with these kind of lame lyrics and vocals from Chino. It kind of felt like Chino's heart wasn't into it. That was in and around the time that he was doing his solo project Crosses, which I was a huge fan of, and also that group Palms, which combined some of the members of ISIS, the band, and Chino. That was awesome as well, but Koi no Yoken, it just didn't land for me. I mean, there's some decent tracks off it, I guess. Swerve City's kind of cool, and so is Leathers, but the rest of it is very whatever. The lead up to their last album, Gore, looked worrisome and troubling for Deftones fans because the band was fighting over what they wanted the album to sound like. It is no secret that the more metal guys in the band are guitarist Stephen Carpenter and the drummer Abe Cunningham, when Chino Moreno's musical interests lie more in new wave and dream pop, which is cool because that exact mix results in Deftones' unique sound, in my opinion, and the band really got me into the genres of new wave and dream pop later on in life. But on this album, it really seemed like Steven and Abe wanted it to be more heavy and riff-based, where Chino Moreno wanted a more headspace kind of album. The result was kind of a mixed bag. There's some great tracks on Gore, such as Prayers Triangles, Geometric Headdress, Hearts Wires is one of my favorites too, but the rest of them kind of sound like a mess, and the band sounds a little directionless on the release. After the album came out, Stephen Carpenter said it was sort of like playing Meshuggah as Chino Moreno was singing Morrissey. It seems like on their past albums, the Deftones were able to mesh their differing influences to create that unique sound, but on this album, it was a little bit more of a tug of war. Yo, Chino, it's me, Steven Carpenter. Me and the band have been working on some heavy shit the past few months. We can't wait to hear you lay your vocals on it. Hey, Steven, yeah, sounds good, man. Sorry for my absence. I got, 15 other bands I'm working on. Let me just head in the booth and get things ready.
The water.
The band was kind of honest about the album being a bit of a mess, and they said that on the next album it would be a much more metal-focused album. And here is that album, Ohms. And is it heavier and more metal-focused? Absolutely. And is it the best album released since Diamond Eyes, in my opinion? Yes. This album sees a return to the partnership of Deftones and Terry Date, the producer who produced Adrenaline, Around the Fur, White Pony, and the self-titled. It plays as sort of a lost album from the past, where if you love that classic old Deftones sound, it's definitely there in tenfolds. It's heavy as hell. And what I like about this album for the most part is the return of the riff. My main criticism of Koi no Yoken is that there wasn't riffs. It was just this, droning chords that go on forever, this wall of sound that kind of fades into the background. But with Ohms, the riffs are back. It sounds like I'm hearing something from Adrenaline. It's awesome. Some of the heaviness on this album is the result of Steven Carpenter playing a 9-string guitar. It sounds crushing, and you can hear that on tracks like Genesis and Error. One of the heaviest songs on this album is Radiant City, which starts with a riff that sounds like it's from Lamb of God before Chino comes in with his blood-curdling screams. Although the album is super heavy, it's not without its new wave and dream pop influences. You can hear that more moody space rock Deftones on tracks like The Spell of Mathematics. The end of the track Pompeii with its dark moody synth sort of reminds me of something from Depeche Mode or New Order, maybe even Joy Division. I think the synths especially lend that modern Deftones, Gore, and Diamond Eyes influence to this album that very much sounds like it could have been the follow-up to Adrenaline. Pompeii is the latest Deftones track to feature Chino Moreno singing about drowning in water or drinking water, choking on water. I don't know why that's such a theme through the Deftones discography. You hear it on Sex Tape off of Diamond Eyes, Beware off of Saturday Night Wrist. I don't know why Chino Moreno has such a tough time drinking water. I feel like his band is maybe pranking him by putting vodka in a water bottle and serving it to him. My favorite track on the album is This Link Is Dead. I love how Chino Moreno is shouting from the rooftops over Abe Cunningham's crazy drumming. It's awesome. And it kind of seems like it's a sequel to This Place Is Dead off of Diamond Eyes. The choruses kind of sound similar. Maybe I'm making that connection because of the title, but it's an interesting observation, I think. My only criticism for this album, I guess, is a common criticism of a lot of metal albums. Usually Deftones is out of this criticism, but for this album they fall into it. All the songs kind of blend into each other. On most Deftones albums, I can pick apart the songs and I know which one I'm listening to without having to check the track list. But for this one, I've heard it 3-4 times now and I'm still doing that. I wish the songs stood out from each other just a little bit more, but it's a light gripe. Overall, I'm pretty happy that Deftones went back to their heavy basics on here with that updated modern sound, and I look forward to listening to this album 100 more times. This is the album that I kind of wish I got to rip through my high school halls listening to, but I really wish I got to rip through my university halls listening to after writing essays and stuff. That would have been kind of necessary. Instead, I guess I'll rip through the streets of my neighborhood on my daily walk at 5 o'clock after working from home all day. This is very much the album that I have been craving since grade 9, and I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. I'll hopefully have more music, content, and album reviews coming out soon. Leave a like if you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and have a great rest of your day. Michael Primz, out.
Gather round, come on, gather round.
All over the walls, the floor, the ceiling,
You
and
can
it
stop
stunk
at
so
5 or
bad.
6 stores or